Hello and welcome to ProCell TV. Today I'd like to welcome David Appricio from the Royal Mail, specifically the Post Office, to talk about a pretty thorny subject and an interesting one that's in the public domain, which is all about, are graduates really ready for the world they enter into? So David, from your perspective, you had a lot of experience with graduates. How ready do you think they are to work within your company?
I think there's two areas on this. There's an element of maturity I find with graduates. That's an interesting one. I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
And there's another area about experience.
Okay.
Maturity, invariably graduates are younger, and so they haven't got all the life experiences that many of us have.
Yeah.
And that, I think that poses a whole range of issues, because they're used to a university life, they're used to a school life, but it's not the same as business life. So and they just haven't grown into that yet.
So are you talking about some kind of sort of finishing school for graduates before coming to work in sort of major organisations such as yourselves?
I think there is, there's a couple areas. One, the degrees that people are doing no longer align to what we're doing in business.
Yeah.
And then two, we need to understand that individuals it's like the old classic. We teach people how to write, how to read, and how to talk at school, but we don't teach them how to listen.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that whole area of listening is not, in no way is covered in the curriculum. And we don't teach anyone how to behave and how to work on their relationships with people. So there's a whole area about just simply listening and then working with people that's just not touched on at all.
Okay, also, how can they enhance those in readiness for the workplace?
Things like emotional intelligence and lots of interpersonal training can be quite fun. Lots of it you can use both within the work context, but you can make quite fun exercises out of getting them to go out to the pub.
Oh yeah, right.
Get them to go to a nightclub and practice those interaction skills.
Okay, are you suggesting then, David, that, you know, I'm sure industry will echo what you're saying, that universities should change what they're doing?
Oh, definitely. I think there's, I've got a real passion around lots of what we do in both business and in university. The education system is based on something which I would call that was born out of the industrial age.
Okay.
We've gone through several different, technological age. We've talked about an information age. We talk about virtual ages. Everyone's coming up with a different name for whatever it is. But what it isn't is the old industrial age. So the way that we operate, the way that we communicate, the way that we train people, and the whole education system's based on something from 100, 200 years ago. I find it fascinating because if you look at, say, one of these .com type organisations, a very highly spec'd IT organisation, the individuals that they get into that they're texting all the time, they're using mobile phones, they're using the internet. They've actually almost continually logged into the web, the World Wide Web. My children, for example, they get the DTs if you disconnect them. I'm serious, they're into it. But what they then do is they learn in a completely different way. Everything that they learn on the internet, everything they learn about mobile phones, IT, is quite intuitive. So they just look at it, they pick it up, and they know how to do it. Now the likes of you and I, from a different age, we're not able to do that. If you think of how people communicate, whether they're on, Facebook or YouTube and all those sorts of things, all the messages are short and sharp, and it's one-way communication. They're not necessarily expecting a response back. So if people text you, it's very brief and it's very short. And then people have started translating texting language into email. And so the language is almost getting shorter and truncated. People don't know how to communicate. The art of communication seems to be lost because we're abbreviating everything and we're distilling it down to the simple yes as a response, or why, or and that. So people are actually forgetting how to communicate because of that. When you then translate that into business, you've got a whole range of people that are going to be now coming into work, and they're used to almost communicating in one style and in one way. Now, how complicated that's going to be for the older generation when you've got this new generation coming in and they're communicating in a completely different way.
Okay, well, thanks very much for your input, David. Valuable as ever. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I think the thing for me is, for many years, I think going back to the industrial age argument I put forward before, I think in many areas we are still training people from a bygone age whilst they're at university. So if you think of half a dozen key roles in any organisation, they'll have, let's call it a financial controller director as one of them. We'll end up with a operations type person. We'll have a sales and marketing type person. When you look at some of the degrees that we're doing now, they're not equipping anyone to step in and do those roles. Now, invariably, when any individual gets someone to join their organisation as a graduate, it's on a fast track, and we're fast tracking them to those roles.
Yes. Yeah.
But the training that they've got doesn't align to any one of those roles. So for me to have a HR, communications, corporate social responsibility, to have degrees that really cover off that area and then give them the depth within that area would be a real boon to business.
Okay. Thanks very much for giving up your time today, David.
No
It's a pleasure
problem.
as always, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.